What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Tactical Advantage. Today what we're going to look at is a knife that I recently received from Schrade. I guess from you guys, if you've been watching the past couple weeks, I recently purchased my first Schrade knife and was pretty impressed with them. So decided to get a few more to take a peek at and play around with. What we're going to look at today is a piece from their folder line. This is actually an SCHA4B, I believe. This is one of their spring-assisted folders, and a really interesting knife, so let's take a peek. So the first thing you'll see is this is how the knives come in a nice little box. Very green. You're definitely not going to mix that up with anybody else. But as you can see, you know, this isn't a very big knife. This is going to be a folder. So let's get her out. So here she is, guys, the Schrade SCHA4B spring assisted folder. I'll give you a couple quick facts about it. Overall length of the knife as a whole is 7.7 inches. The handle is 4.4 inches. The blade is 3.3 inches. The blade steel is 4034 steel. That's a stainless, a mild stainless. Clip point, and it's actually a liner lock as well, guys. And it's actually got the magic spring assist mechanism like you'll see in Smith & Wesson knives, which is pretty interesting. It's actually got a steel handle with like a coating on it. That is just... it's a really good looking knife, you know. Definitely liked it. The thing that kind of got me interested in this when I really first opened it up and handled it was, you know, obviously the spring assist is nice, but the ergonomics of the blade are just sweet, you know. Very nice feeling in the hand. And the spring assist definitely does work. Has a locking mechanism right here, so you can lock it so the spring assist won't have it popping open in your pocket. But you have this spine piece that you can open it up, and you also have some thumb studs that you can get. As you can see, I've already got a lanyard made for it. I just couldn't help myself. But let's run through a couple more things. So again, bring it up. That handle is just really nicely textured. Finger grooves, jimping on the back and up by the blade. Again, we already talked about the thumb studs. We have the safety lock, a good quality clip with a 3-nut retention there. That's nice and tight. That feels good. Frame and blade jimping. So you see you have some jimping there. And that's kind of nice too, what they got with this kind of thumb cutout right here. So if you were using like downward force or a downward cutting motion, you can really choke up on the knife. Really tight, you know, nothing sloppy. Has a good edge on it. As we go closer to the end of the video, I'll show you guys a little bit more of that. But for factory edge, not bad, especially for a kind of a cheaper steel or a more affordable steel knife. Has a surprisingly good edge on it. The one thing too, that the blade is textured, which is kind of interesting. You don't see that very often. Model number and the insignia in the blade. Some patents, and that's most likely for the magic system. Let's see, everything, you know, it screams higher end, you know, from a mechanism and a form standpoint than the price point really suggests. You know, it does have a more affordable steel variant for the blade, but I think for work use or utilitarian use, it's absolutely fine. You know, it's a mild stainless, not extremely hard stainless. Opens up positively. And that's also, again, something I'm really interested in this knife about, is just how it feels in the hand. Now this is 2 Schrades in a row that just laying my hand on the knife, it just felt right. You know, it feels really good. Plain edge, non-serrated, still heavily beveled. thick spine for a folder. You know, it feels tough, feels strong. Obviously a lanyard hole, and I get a kick out of the spring assist. Works pretty well. You know, the obvious competition for this knife would be somewhere probably around like the Kershaw Blur. No, it feels a little bit different in the actuation than a Blur. It does open positively and it feels right. You can tell it locks in. It doesn't really wash its way in unless you just really limp it and kind of ride. And it works really well. Good knife for EDC, I think. It's really just about the right size, if you ask me, for a deep pocket carry or riding high in the pocket on the clip. Pretty interesting stuff. So I'll try and get you guys some nice close-up views so you can see the texturing. You know, everything's solid. Everything that's supposed to be tight is tight. And I didn't tweak it. All I did to this knife when I took it out of the box is I tied the lanyard on it. No lube, no nothing. This is exactly how she came out. Real good fit and finish. And that kind of leads me just to touch base one more time on what I think the detractors are for this knife, and what I think the people that are really going to kind of hoop and holler about this are going to hit on is the blade steel. 4034 stainless is a low chromium content steel. It's an inexpensive alloy, which really makes knives with like a complex mechanism, you know, highly figured handles, a lot of metal work or work in the knife itself affordable. So, you know, you're sacrificing a little bit on the blade steel, which I think for a utilitarian knife isn't a problem here. 4034, or its other alias is 420 steel, is a mass-produced, inexpensive alloy, normally procured from China. Steel is not brittle. This particular steel is not brittle. It's actually quite a bit softer than what you would see in like your 440s, things like that. Really, I think the closest cousin to what you would see, maybe just a little bit higher end, would be the AUS6 or the AUS8 family of alloys. The main difference is the vanadium content, or the constituent in the alloy, that really increases the hardness, like in the AUS or the AUS 6s and 8s. They hold an edge very, very well because they're relatively hard. This knife, it kind of remains to be seen how well that edge will hold. As I said before, it did come out fairly sharp from the factory, so I have absolutely no doubts you can put an edge on this. How well it will retain over time in hard use, that remains to be seen. Just to recap, you know, steel in the simplest form, and this just becomes a huge topic of discussion, is just iron and carbon. To get into the stainless, you're adding chromiums, you know, other metallic elements like that to create different alloys. And I think a lot of times too much emphasis is put on a particular steel type. You know, D2 tool steels, they're all great steels, great knife steels. But, you know, how often is the layman that's going out there and buying knives, is he really worried about putting a mirror edge on it and having it, you know, never go dull or never have to do any maintenance? So I think for the street price of what this knife is going for, which I think is around between $30 and $40, I mean, I think you can absolutely take a risk on a little bit lower quality blade steel that we absolutely know will take an edge and feels pretty tough. I don't really see a loss there. And that thing, man, the more I play with it, the more I'm kind of getting into that that magic opening mechanism. You know, I think for the compromise in blade steel to get a knife like this with this type of mechanism, this type of attention to detail, you know, I think is a worthy compromise. I'm going to be playing with this. I'm actually going to carry it for a week or two, see how I like it, see if it breaks in, if you know, things start running a little bit better. So you got the liner lock there. Everything's locking up positive. Can see no blade play. Really good looking knife. That's kind of what struck me. It looks good, and you know, everything works. The safety works. The opening works, and just ergonomically, I think it's a really good feeling knife. Perfect size for the pocket. So I'll take a second. I'll try and show you guys what the edge on it from the factory kind of looks like. So as you can see, it's not a really polished edge. It's got a kind of utility grind on it, but it's actually relatively sharp. What we're looking at here is a piece of medium heavy copy paper, and she's taking that apart like it's nobody's business. And I have not done any doctoring to this blade at all. That's kind of how it came from the factory. So we absolutely know that you can put an edge on it. Just how well will it hold it and for how long. The more I look at it, the more I like this thing. Really nice. Company logo in it. And that you guys are going to see over the next few weeks, I have a couple more Schrade knives I'm going to review. I'm kind of sold on them, you know, after being hooked on Kershaw for a long time and being around a lot of guys that like the really high-end, extremely uber expensive kind of knives. You know, I like those as well, but you know, I want something I'm not going to be afraid to take out of my pocket and use. And I'm sorry, a $500 knife I'm not going to want to use in the field. So interesting stuff, guys. Schrade folder SCHA4B. Let me know if you have any questions or anything you want to see with this one. I'll rip it apart if you guys want to, and we can look at the inside of it. So let me know what you're interested in seeing. Thanks for stopping by.